Mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Tomo, you magnificent bastard, I read your book. I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch.
Captain.
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 Captain. Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
No, not yet. Not yet. Don't pass out on me yet. Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Tuesday night, September 1st, the year of our Lord 2020. September already. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelins Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Always spell it with a K. A mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Street, where at night you can hear the death of common sense and its concomitant wail as it wafts from that putrefying edifice. And of course, at the end of the show, when I exit the plush, the resplendent, the sumptuous, the palatial SHR Media Studios, I will be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from that edifice at 10th and L Street. Be forewarned, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours are my opinion only. I wonder why BZ puts that in there now. I gotta tell you this, because of the fear porn that has gripped this nation, the saloon, it's not open. However, I am still serving stiff drinks out the back door, as well as history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. We are in a war, ladies and gentlemen. It is 2020. Bipartisanship and compromise is dead. It's dead to me. It's a soft coup that's going on. And I don't know, would you go so far as to say that it's a war out on the streets? Ooh, because I am deaf as a post, let's make sure I turn up, there we go, turn up the headphone volume so I can hear, for God's sake. Sackhead Sean is in the building, but he's not here right now. Tonight, by the way, tonight, We have Jeff Dunetz in the first hour. Actually, he's on the teleolophone, one each right here. Jeff, are you there, sir?
I think so.
Okay.
It feels like me.
Okay. Have you checked, though? Remember I sent you the form, How to Know If You're Jeff Dunetz? And you sent it back to me, but you failed to tick the box where it says, Jeff Dunetz is a fabulous guy. I don't understand why that was. Why was that?
Because I knew it was me. Because Lois gave me a list of things to do.
Okay. Alrighty. Her last name isn't Lane. Tell me her last name isn't Lane.
It isn't Lane.
Okay, excellent.
My wife.
Okay, good. Sackett Sean was in the studio and reminded me of a cut. What I'm going to do is I have determined that my intro is about a minute too long. So next week or week after, I'm going to be paring this thing down, but I'm going to be inserting one bit because I had forgotten this was in the movie The Usual Suspects. I love this. This is, now say what you will about Kevin Spacey, and we can say a lot of things, but this was a great line from The Usual Suspects.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Do you agree, Jeff Dunetz?
No.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you.
We have a different vision of the devil than Christians.
Okay, that's true. That's true. Oh, how daft of me. I gave us the day. I gave us the date. It's night right now. And I forgot, where are my damn manners? Welcome in chat, in SHR Media chat, to Mike, to Sergeant Booker, Jeff himself, the Alaskan, Jack Alexander, Whiskey Dale, Leslie, and Severe Cruz. As opposed to kind of pablum-oriented cruise, there is Severe Cruise. Now, Severe Cruise, I think, would be if you have a hurricane, high winds, you got a Category 4 or 5 storm, and you're trying to anchor in Dutch Harbor, which can't accept passenger liners. That's a Severe Cruise. I don't know, maybe that's what Severe Cruise meant. By the way, to Whiskey Dale, and to everybody that doesn't already know, saints be praised, Whiskey Dale. Aye, saints be praised. For those of you who can't see, and this view on the on YouTube or Facebook live streaming right now doesn't show the actual Berserk Bobcat Saloon, but praises be to the saintly Whiskey Dale who shipped me the actual Berserk Bobcat, for whom the saloon is named, about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. And if I had a producer, I would ship the view up to the Bobcat up there. But there is an actual Bobcat in the saloon. So saints be praised to Whiskey Dale. Thank you ever so much for shipping us Clyde. And as he says in SHR chat, Clyde rules. Clyde most definitely rules.
For some reason, I feel like having a bowl of Lucky Charms now.
It's indescribably delicious. Is that what they say?
Something like that.
Oh, and welcome to Lee and Josh in Facebook chat. Leslie is in Facebook chat. You know, here's the funny thing about Facebook chat. I look at the show later, and I see that I'm missing a ton of comments. And what I'm looking at right now over my other teleolophone won't show me all the comments. So for those of you on Facebook, I haven't been kicked off Facebook again, although I'm sure that's pending. But when you, yeah, you and I both know about that, don't we, Jeff?
Yeah.
So I wish I could tell you that I see all of your comments. The ones I see, I attempt to respond to, but I've discovered after the fact that I don't see but a fraction of the comments here live. And for that, I have to greatly apologize. Jeff, I have you here tonight with one very specific thing to talk about. This occurred, oh gosh, what would you say, about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks ago? Is it about that long?
Yeah.
And I thought...
it happened August 13th-ish.
Okay. And I thought at the time, because I wanted to have you on the Tuesday directly after that had occurred, because I really wanted your input with regard to this. And the situation just didn't work out, but it works out tonight. And though I want to go over your blog, and yes, there are tons of other stories that we can talk about in the first hour, because Jeff DUNETZ will be here in the first hour.
Oh, good. I like him.
That guy. I like that guy, and I hope everybody here likes that guy too. Bill. Oh, Bill McIntosh. This is interesting. Bill McIntosh on Facebook chat says he's in Peru. Greetings from Peru. That's one of the furthest locations I've ever have had anyone listen to the show live in chat. Now, I've had a gal, as a matter of fact, she called, and she was in the chat room probably about 6 months ago, from New Zealand. And then Jack Alexander, who is in the chat room right now and whom I have frequently on the show, he's from Australia. But here's Bill McIntosh in the Facebook chat room from Peru. Well, great to see you here, Bill. I hope you come back. Josh, I think I said welcome to you. If I didn't, welcome in Facebook chat. So thanks for everybody being here tonight. Because of the story, well, first, let me go and be the kind host that I should be known as. Whether or not I succeed all the time, I'm not sure. But Jeff DUNETZ, if you haven't heard him before, has his own blog, lidblog.com. And he writes, he is a prolific author, frequently I can't say frequently, but sometimes has other people on his blog to pen articles as well. Lidblog.com. Lidblog.com. Very easy to go to. And if you like to go to blogs, but you think, bloggers, they don't impress me very much anymore. If they write something every 3 days, that's kind of, no. Jeff writes 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5 articles a day. Lidblog.com is very, very active. So I just wanted to make sure that I promote your blog.
Thank you.
And thank you for somehow managing to contact Ed Morrissey from PJ Media and Hot Air and let him know that if they wanted to hear you speak about the first topic up for bid tonight, thanks for doing that too, Jeff DUNETZ.
Well, I was actually in the chat room of his show today, and I asked him to mention it.
Oh, okay, great. Outstanding. So,
because I'm a regular listener to his show also.
He was on once. I'd like to have him back. Ed Morrissey is a great guy, has a great show. This article is, let me see, I think I'm pulling it up right now. Okay, here it is. It's by you, August 13th. So, yeah, about three weeks ago or so.
Yeah, but you really have to go before that to understand what happened.
So what I want to have Jeff talk about tonight is the headline that he wrote on that day. Analysis of Team Trump's negotiated Israel-UAE peace agreement. So please take it away, Jeff.
This is a deal that only Trump could have done. Okay? And let me explain. About a year and a half ago, the word was, the buzz around the Middle East was Saudi Arabia were telling the Palestinians, you know what, we're tired of this, make peace already. Okay? And because the Arab states made a commitment never to make peace with Israel until they make peace with the Palestinians. However, Saudi Arabia and Israel have been working together ever since the Iran deal because Saudi Arabia hates Iran as much as Iran hates Israel. Okay? So that was step one. Step two was, you remember the deal of the century that came out in February?
Was that where we placed our embassy?
No, that's after. This is when Trump announced a plan, an Israeli-Palestinian peace plan that he came up with. And unlike previous presidents, it was actually a pretty fair one. There were things in it I liked, things I didn't like. But, gave the Palestinians all the same amount of land that they were supposed to have, but they were land trades. Some things went to Israel, and Israel gave up some of its land. Okay? But the Palestinians' mistake is there you had a fair deal to both sides. The Palestinians didn't even want to talk to Trump about it. They didn't want to make peace. There are Arab countries who weren't too happy with this. Okay? And that's really where the whole thing was started from, because Trump read that the other Arab nations were kind of getting pissed at the Palestinians. Okay? And this was a setup for the Palestinians. They either had a chance to make peace, or the other states were going to make peace. And that's how it was done. Okay? So this deal, first of all, what they were calling annexation, what Israel was talking about, that couldn't have happened unless because Trump released that deal of his in February. Because what Israel was talking about taking over were the lands that went to Israel in that deal that Trump made. But the problem was it wasn't really a takeover. It was Israel already controls that land. So what they were going to do is, right now it's controlled by a military authority. They were going to make it controlled by the civilian authority. Basically, they were going to demilitarize it, but everybody flipped out. But because Trump set them up, they were doomed to fail. Thus, this deal was made. Okay, the pressure was, you know what, Israel, if you don't do that annexation thing that everyone's upset with, we'll make peace with you. UAE. Now, UAE and Israel have been working behind the scenes for years, maybe a decade. So it wasn't like a real hard move. And everyone's talking about first peace deal in 25 years. That's not the big deal. The big deal was it was the first peace deal that didn't say that Israel had to make peace with the Palestinians before we make a total peace. And that was, it broke down that barrier that all the previous American administrations pushed for. That's why, Obama couldn't do anything, because he said we can't negotiate for Israel. We can't negotiate against Israel unless there's a deal with the Palestinians. But guess what? All the Arab nations, all the moderate Arab nations, supposedly moderate, are already dealing with Israel. They needed somebody to break the ice. And that's what they did. They broke the ice. But no other president would have thought outside the box to do a peace deal that didn't involve the Palestinians first.
You write about that in that August 13th article. Here's a quote from you. Yes, you certainly did. Sir, you always have my greatest, deepest respect. The Trump administration thought outside the box to make this deal. The supposed peace experts of the previous administrations had always bloviated, I love that word, I wonder why, that no Arab country would ever formalize ties with Israel before a Palestinian state was created. Trump created an outline of a deal, and the Palestinians refused to participate in its development. Stop for just a moment. Let me go back and ask you, Jeff DUNETZ, if yes. I have a faint recall of something in the, please correct me if I'm wrong, 80s under Yasser Arafat, where Israel was negotiating with Arafat, gave him just about everything he wanted. And in reply, he said something essentially,
Up yours.
pack it where the sun don't shine. I will not even go with that. Is that accurate? Somewhat?
Yes. And it happened again in the first decade of this century, with what's his name? With Bush and trying to remember the name, Ehud Barak.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, Ehud Olmert. Okay, basically the same thing. And this was President Abbas who walked away. The problem is that the only way the Palestinian government can manage their people is by convincing them to hate Jews and Israel.
Well, and also convincing them, like other personnel we know recently, that they're 24/7 victims.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that they've done such a good job at that, they can't go back and say, let's make peace with them now. And they don't have the guts to do it. And here's another interesting thing is that out of the original Palestinian refugees, there's about 25,000 of them left. But the UN counts those refugees, their children, their cousins, their second cousin twice removed, et cetera, et cetera. That's why the number is closer to 5 million now.
Okay.
Because like our deficit, it's inflated.
Well, and like any number of other things that I could reference. You wrote in your article, Trump correctly figured out that the moderate Arab states were tiring of the Palestinians' refusal to try to make peace. Thus, the UAE peace deal was ripe for negotiating. Well, it's sort of a peace agreement between the two countries. We're not at war, but it's still a big deal as Israel and the UAE have never had normalized relations, trade, diplomats, etc. You also write the UAE is only the third Muslim country in the area to have relations with Israel, the other two being Egypt and Jordan. Unlike other agreements, this is not land for peace, and I think this is a great sentence. Unlike other agreements, this one is not land for peace, it's peace for peace.
Bingo.
I think that was brilliant. Oh, welcome to Kaiser in chat. Just jumped in. Let me ask you this, if I can, Jeff DUNETZ.
Mm-hmm.
There are any number of Arab countries surrounding and isolating Israel. If Israel had to evac, it'd have to pretty much go all Dunkirk, because everyone around them is essentially and has been their enemy at any particular given point in history. So having said that...
Technically, Saudi Arabia and Israel is still at war.
Okay. So the first question that I had after watching this story emerge and then reading your article was, all right, the UAE, to my way of thinking, has been really quiet. I don't remember, because I don't have my finger on the pulse of the Middle East or Israel, but I don't remember much about the UAE in the past, year or more. So why a peace deal with specifically the UAE and no other nation?
Well, somebody had to break the logjam. Okay? And the UAE was perfect because the leader of the UAE has a special relationship with Trump. He trusts Trump.
Okay.
Just like Netanyahu does. That's another reason why it couldn't have been anybody else. Because both leaders have a special relationship with Trump. Now, they're not going to go out and buy furniture together, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Okay, this relationship happened before Trump was president. Okay, now, do you know what's right across the Gulf from the UAE?
I'm trying to remember my history, but I'll trust you.
Okay, it's not Oakland, but they like to scream death to America.
Oh, well, damn.
Iran.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, UAE, they're not fighting with Iran, but they're kind of scared about Iran, especially Iran getting nukes and Hezbollah, which is basically Iran's terrorist army. Okay. Now, what President Trump has been doing for the last 2.5 years, pressuring Iran, it's also convinced the UAE that Trump is serious about fighting Iran. So that also helped them move the needle to join up with Israel.
Okay.
Okay. Again, it's something that couldn't have been done without Trump. Okay. And there are going to be more coming. Okay.
More negotiations?
And the UAE are very, very strong technology-wise.
Okay. I can understand that.
Okay. And therefore, their economies match. And their economies can feed off of each other. And let's face it, the best way to keep a peace thing going is making money off of everybody.
Well, a mutual benefit society, if you will.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, now we know that the UAE is far from Israel. You've delineated why you believe that the UAE, that was the first negotiation that was made. There's Jordan.
But I'll tell you something interesting. A friend of ours, a Sikh gentleman, his daughter was getting married. He's throwing a big, big wedding in the UAE.
Okay.
We couldn't go because the UAE, if you've ever been to Israel and it's on your passport, they don't let you go. They say they do, but they've been kicking people out when they land. So, I mean, it's a big change.
Okay, so again, I understand what you were saying about the UAE being friendly with President Trump. Could there have been, or Jeff Dunetz, do you think there might be a future deal of some sort with, I don't know, say, I'm just throwing it out there, Jordan, closer, Lebanon, closer.
Okay, there is a deal with Jordan already.
Okay.
Okay, Lebanon is being run really by Hezbollah. It's a satellite of Iran. Okay. There was peace between Israel and Lebanon for like 2 decades until Hezbollah, basically, I think 20% of their government is people from Hezbollah. Okay. So Lebanon, I don't think so. But, okay, they're talking about Bahrain.
Okay.
And they're talking about eventually Saudi Arabia, but there'll be 2 or 3 more before Saudi Arabia falls.
Okay. I am looking, I'm cheating. I'm looking at a map. So I see UAE. I'm looking at Qatar, looking at Bahrain, looking at
Qatar,
Kuwait.
they're saying might be one of the next one, too.
Okay. I'm looking at Kuwait.
Right.
These are all pretty powerful nations, certainly Kuwait, rather oil rich. The UAE being a conglomeration of a lot of power and a lot of resources. Can we hold this thought? I'm going to go to a break. Folks, we're talking to Jeff Dunetz. We're going to take a break. Now's the time, perfect time to go to the electric winkle chamber if you must. Come back in about 4 minutes or so. Jeff is going to be talking further about this. Plus, this is me on video. Plus, he's got a ton of other stories to talk about. And I also want to talk to Jeff DUNETZ because he lives in the state, not in the city. But I want to touch base with him regarding just the crazy crap that's going on in New York. OMG. And with that, we'll be right back after this. Thanks, Jeff, for being here tonight.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff DUNETZ. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff DUNETZ.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
No surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Boy, the first half hour passed rapidly. Most rapidamente. Thanks for listening to me. I am the bloviating Zeppelin. Zeppulus, bloviating, one each, right here in the SHR Media Studio. Live and direct in the SHR Media Studio, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. While I'm thinking about it, because I'm so crappy at self-promotion, if you're thinking about it and you're on YouTube, can you share? Share the show. If you're on Facebook, can you share? Share the show. If you're on Spreaker, can you share? Share the show. We used to say in child abuse that sharing is caring. And I'm asking for a little sharing. I'm a terrible self-promoter. Jeff DUNETZ, are you a good self-promoter, do you think?
No.
I find it hard. I find it very difficult. And it comes so easy to some people just to say, hey, go out, watch my show, I'm the greatest. Okay.
Well, it's only because I don't call it that. I call it shameless self-promotion. Yeah, of course I it's the only way you can get people to notice who you are.
Yeah, that's true. There's something in my brainulus, my wheelhouse, that says something like, you're not all that in a bag of chips. Folks, I got to tell you, I do this mostly for me. If I get more listeners and viewers, that's awesome. I love that. And I love everybody that comes to the show and watches.
I thought you did it because it helps you meet little kids.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm sorry, BZ.
That's okay. Because when you say that harkens back to when I was in child abuse in the early 90s in detectives. And I've thought about this. Jeff, since you're here, I'll ask you, and anybody else that happens to be in chat. When I was in child abuse, I was also writing for a blog called Absolute Zero United. And I thought, God, how did I get onto this? Okay, I'll make it quick. I thought one day I'll do a show, or maybe a half hour, part of a show, on some of the stuff that you have no idea goes on in your community with regard to children and child abuse. And I'm of two minds about that, because I'm afraid that I'm going to turn everybody off, or I'm afraid that I'm going to reveal some things that probably ought not to be revealed. And
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
And this is serious, not funny.
Okay.
When you were a detective in child abuse, how did you keep yourself from really hitting and beating up the abusers?
Okay. I can only speak
honest.
No, I know, I understand. It's an honest question.
And I know you, and I know I know that seriously you must have wanted to.
Yeah. And this probably isn't true of all the child abuse units or a similarly named child abuse unit all through law enforcement in the United States. In my unit, when I was there, when you were new, this is what you got. You had to prove yourself. And basically, the new guy or gal caught all the cases involving the dead, burnt, broken, crippled, smashed babies. Because nobody else wanted to take those cases. And after months or a year of doing those to see if you can take it, to see if you will stay, I have to tell you, I was lucky at the time. Maybe that's why I was chosen. I do not know. But I have to tell you, and I've said this for some time, I have no kids. And I was solicited to go into child abuse from the previous unit where I was. I was in warrants. And perhaps it was because I had no children. Having said that, dealing with the dead, burned, exploded, slashed, any adjective you can think of or verb, babies, the cases that you take, after a while you begin to question, do I really want to be here? Then you get, once you are a proven entity in that area, then you are slided the cases of the actual pedophiles. Not the people where there is physical, obvious abuse, but the people, the suspects who live to mindfuck children. Because when you get into, you have to get past the I want to kill you so quickly, so rapidly. If you're not past that in the first week, you're there, you will not survive.
I see.
So you have to be able to put that aspect of your brain, you have to put your lizard brain on hold. And then once you handle the initial cases that no one else wants, essentially, then you move and migrate into the cases where it becomes, I have a suspect, I've invited them into an interview room. Some are absolutely nuts, and you cannot conduct a conversation. Some of them are there just to screw with you mentally, just like they did with the kids.
Okay.
And you learn that if you can get, these are mind games, hours of mind games in an interview room. And it's a challenge to see in that situation who's going to survive and who will triumph over the other. One thing you know immediately is that if you get an admission, your foot is in the door. If you can get an admission, your foot is in the door. How the hell did I get over here? Anyway, that I'm still of two minds about that. I'm still thinking, someday I'd like to do about a half hour of that, and the other one I'm thinking is that is really a bad idea. Because I will tell you quite frankly, the biggest, after I retired, this is probably the first time I've said this, I've had a very difficult time with retirement. Because my brain theater won't shut down. After 41 years of all of this, it doesn't go away. The brain is on, and it's just a matter of what night is going to be the worst show, the worst play, but it doesn't go away. It never goes away. And so I'm just doing my best, like everybody else, to motor through. Then throw 2020 on top of that. Jesus. I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No, I found that very interesting. So do you want the worst story of the day? Just to segue away from that?
Sure. Okay. The worst being the best or the best being the worst?
It's a good story, but it's one that pissed me off the most.
Okay.
The mayor of Washington appointed a committee to recommend changing the names of their city-owned properties to remove anybody who had anything to do with bigotry, slavery, or anything like that. And you know what?
Right.
And they did it with schools and streets. And you know what? If they want to do that, it's their city. And then they made another recommendation. They want to get rid of federal stuff. In Washington, D.C. The Christopher Columbus statue, the Benjamin Franklin statue, statues of Jackson and George Mason. And then they get to the Jefferson Memorial, and the Washington Monument. So the city of Washington, D.C. is the mayor is on the National Capital Memorial Advisory Commission.
Right.
And she's recommending that the federal government get rid of the Washington, all those, including the Washington Monument. And it's just like, how bad? This cancel culture, I always thought it had already hit the bottom.
Clearly not.
Clearly not. Okay? Because they not only hit the bottom, but they dug all the way to China. And I don't mean that, the communist China. I'm thinking that when I was a kid, that like you dug far, we always said you go to China. Okay? They went way bottom. And the thing is that no human being, no great human being didn't do bad stuff.
No.
Okay.
No, and then
I mean, if you use their logic, okay, then for example, they should remove the name of Moses from the Bible. Heck, he disobeyed God and hit a rock.
Well, as I say, and I've said for quite some time, if, for example, if you think white people are so bad and you're a leftist, it seems to me that you should take yourself out. You should be first. Set the example. Let's go back to UAE for a second. I got Kaiser Schuff on the line, and he wanted to talk to you about UAE. Kaiser, you still there?
Oh, yeah, brother. Hey, here's what I'll say. I think Jeff already knows this. UAE, for years, probably a decade or a little over, has had a quiet agreement with the Mossad, and that's a fact. And whilst I'm going to give the backup facts for this,
okay,
for folks who don't know, in New York, there was for a time, at least when I applied to work for them, of course, they used British. They were very clear once they understood I was an American that they only used British to escort the Mossad around. It's a little game the British and the UAE has played for years, and I worked in Dubai. So all you have to look at is it was a big hit in a Dubai hotel, and it was the Mossad killing certain people, and Jeff is not wrong. There were not Sunni, but Shia Muslim.
Okay.
And this is a fact. And the company in New York was called Rockstar Promotion. They wanted to hire me until they found out I was an American. I still have the email, brother, Jeff. I'm not trying to crap on the parade, but there has been a quiet, and the same thing with Saudi Arabia. There's been a quiet agreement with a lot of countries over there, and you know it has to be quiet because this destabilizes things. But that's a fact. And I remember my first war, BZ and Jeff, if you didn't know this, was the Gulf War, when Brennan converted to Islam. And
okay, you're talking 91?
The U.S. media.
You're talking 91, right around in there?
Yeah. You broke up, brother, so maybe it's my phone.
No, that's okay. I was asking if that was right around 1991, right around in there.
Yeah. It was 90, 91. Yeah. 91, and the 1st Marine Division got there in, we all got there in August 7th of 1990. I left on April Fool's Day, April 1st, 1991. So, there's a lot of misinfo that people throw out there. I don't think Jeff is doing that. I think Jeff is being honest, because it is a good thing that the UAE is normalized relations. But in Dubai, all people have to look at is the Mossad hit in Dubai, and those people were driven there by Brits. I know several of the Brits there. They were the ones who wanted to bring me in on this. But it was out of New York, Rockstar Promotions. That is their cover name. They're going to change it now because this is the first time I've outed this on your program, by the way. And Jeff probably doesn't even know this. But they have had really normalized relationships. Same with the Kingdom. Don't think this is different. They can't openly say they work with people working against. It's the Sunni Shia split. And that's the problem nobody wants to talk about. I'm being honest about this.
Well, wouldn't you say...
And I think Jeff knows this.
Wouldn't you say, though, that it's a step in the right direction, Kaiser, that Israel and the UAE are at least making these steps? As Jeff pointed out originally, I don't think anybody else could have done this. I don't think any other president could have done this, or even had the inclination to attempt.
I agree. I'm just saying, I'm speaking that relationships have been normalized, but not officially. Does that make sense to both you and Jeff? And I really will listen for your guys' thoughts.
Okay.
Actually,
right.
The UAE
Thanks, Kaiser.
yesterday made an announcement that any boycotts of Israel that were in place before now have to be lifted. Okay, so it's real.
So Jeff Dunetz, do you think? Well, you mentioned Bahrain. Do you think Bahrain might be next after UAE? Is that the information that you might be getting?
I'm hearing Bahrain. I'm hearing Qatar. I don't know. Okay, but it's one of those. Okay, and when you have 3 or 4 more, then you're going to have Saudi Arabia. People are saying Saudi Arabia is next. No. Saudi Arabia needs cover. Okay, because, you forget that they need protection from Iran.
Yes.
So they're not going to do it. They're not going to be a leading person in it, a leading state. They're going to be in the middle.
Okay, so it sounds as though, number one, we know this was a good thing, Jeff Dunetz, that this happened. You're indicating that there may be more countries coming.
There will be more countries.
There will be more countries coming. Overall, in the Middle East, I don't know, this is really maybe standing way out on a limb.
It helps stabilize. It helps to stabilize the Middle East. Okay?
Okay.
And that's a good thing. I'm talking about it from the perspective of the United States.
Yes.
I love Israel, but this is my country. Okay? From the perspective of the United States, it stabilizes the region. Okay? Which is something that Trump has been trying to do since, you remember what his first trip was overseas?
Did he go to Saudi Arabia?
You bet. He went to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia had him arranged for him to have a big conference with the Arab states, and he told them no more of this terrorism crap.
I think he went to Riyadh, or did he?
Yes. Well, that's Saudi Arabia.
Oh, right, but I'm trying to remember the city that he went to.
Yeah, he went to the capital. They had a big conference there.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you talking about Riyadh?
Yes.
Yeah, NFA Kalam Arabi. Look, man, I'm being honest with you. I learned Arabic in the kingdom. I know how all the sausage links go. And you're exactly right, Jeff. There has been a quiet ceasefire will they allow, even in the kingdom, people from Israel to go there. It's a very quiet thing.
Well,
But
the other
it's
thing
to
you have
get
to
rid of-
understand is that the Middle East, the moderate countries, to use that term, they stopped trusting the United States during the Obama administration. Okay, when Obama promised that Syria had to stop gassing its own people or we do something, and then did nothing, he lost the Middle East. No, but that's what happened. I'm telling you. I hear it from diplomats.
Well, I have been on the other side looking at things, and what I'll say is, you're not wrong, but it is about the Arab, the Sunni Shia split.
Of course.
And
but that's what.
Hold on.
Well,
can I finish my thought, please? It's been the Sunni Shia split. I'm not saying Iran is perfect. I'm not saying the Saudis are perfect. I do like Israel, although most people don't think I do. I do like Israel. I think they are a stabilizing force. But the problem is, when people say this has not been normalized, they're correct. It hasn't been normalized through an edict. But it has been normalized for about 2 decades, at least. And it's because your enemy and my enemy are friends. And that enemy we will focus on. And trust me, I am not a fan. Brother, I was in Iraq when the Iranians were throwing explosive fire projectiles, EFPs, into Iraq and killing my brothers.
Okay.
And I even helped.
You understand this. I want to make sure all the listeners understand it, okay? Iran is Shia.
Bro.
Okay? Saudi Arabia is Sunni. And a lot of those other countries are Sunni, all the quote-unquote moderates. When Obama made that deal with Iran, okay, all the Sunni countries flipped out. Everyone said, oh, Israel's pissed off. All the Sunni countries flipped out because Iran wants to make itself the controller of Islam. Okay? And they're Shia and the other ones are Sunni. Okay? And that's what's behind. Actually, it's one of the things affecting this deal because the Sunni countries, okay, when Obama made that deal, they gravitated a little more towards Israel because, like you said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that's exactly what happened.
Okay, we got about two more minutes.
I wasn't, okay, real quick, BZ.
Okay.
I wasn't negating anything that Jeff said. I would love to have him on my show, actually. Because
I was
pretty
agreeing with you on that point. Okay? You're not negating anything I said. I've written about the Sunni-Shia divide 100 times. Okay?
Yeah, I'm very pro-Israel because they have a right to exist. This is my point.
Well, I have no problem with you and Israel, okay? I am agreeing with you on Sunni versus Shia, okay? You're 100% right.
My point is that, yes, Trump did something that officiated, and I appreciate. But
he also manipulated it. That's the interesting part.
2 minutes, and I'm going to have to go to a break. 2 minutes, I'm going to have to go to a break, gentlemen.
Okay, can I get like 5 minutes after? or no? I'll hang up, brother. I'm not trying to take
It depends on if Jeff has to go. Jeff, you're welcome to stay. It's midnight right now where you are. It's 9 p.m. on the left coast. So, Jeff, you're welcome to stay. If you got to go, I understand that too, sir.
I can stay for 5 more minutes after the break.
Okay. All right. We are going to carry this over the break. This is an interesting convo. This is one of the reasons that you guys like to listen to the show. I'll be right back after this, and we'll wrap things up between Jeff DUNETZ, who is my guest tonight, and Kaiser, who has called in. Be right back after this. Hello. There we go.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett, co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York. The Lid himself, Jeff DUNETZ. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff DUNETZ.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
This is Shannon Wright.
And this is Michael Wright.
Reminding you to listen
to The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
Every Monday through Thursday.
7 to 9 a.m.
Right here on shrmedia.com.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian Sackheads Clint plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I gotta tell you, that was the best $60 I ever spent to have that guy do that promo. I gotta have him do some more. I love that guy's snooty voice. It's wonderful. It was perfect for Sackheads. Tonight we've got Jeff DUNETZ in the saloon. Kaiser Schuff was talking to Jeff. We'll get about 5 more minutes to wrap things up, and then I know for a fact, because it's so damn late, Jeff has got to go. Because Jeff is probably at least writing 1 or 2 articles at this point, even as we talk. So, Kaiser, did you want to make one final point with regard to what we were talking about?
Oh, yeah. Any of you guys can look it up. It's in Dubai, a hotel room. Mossad rubbed out an Emirati. That's because that's how this stuff works. It's not rocket science, folks. It is about people. Okay, first off, most of the people on your channel know that a lot of people think I'm just a contractor. No, I'm a mercenary. This is what I do for a living. I'm a consultant. That's why they were shocked when they found out I was an American. They will not hire an American from Rockstar Promotion because I have a good name. And I think there's a juvenileness for Americans who think that this is new. No, it's not. This has been going on for decades, since the Gulf War, at least. And it was done by a man I despise, and you despise, and I'm sure Jeff despises, Brennan, who converted to Islam. This is how this happened. He is a Sunni, not a Shia. And yet, under Obama, he became the guy who sent X amount of billions of dollars to Iraq or to Iran. And just like the false dichotomy that they keep talking about, that there was no weapons of mass destruction, nobody can explain the 300 tons of yellow cake from Iraq that were shipped to Canada for destruction afterwards, and they can't describe the stuff we found in Wasat Province, Al-Quds.
I actually wrote about the yellow
was
cake they shipped to Canada. The interesting thing is, as a diabetic, I always tell people yellow cake is the only kind of cake I can eat. But they don't get the pun. But yes, they found yellow cake, they found chemical weapons, and actually Iran is still using some of that stuff. Okay, Israel has found some of it.
the reason why I was kept quiet, I'm going to tell you, Jeff, is because it wasn't just from the U.S. It wasn't. It was from England and also Germany. These are our partners in that during that time. Jeffrey, I was there, and when we had a collapse. This is how I found out about it. I mean, I took pictures. There's a lot of evidence there on this. I am telling you, man, I'm just telling you, and I'm not the only one. I can bring other people on the show when we all get together. Hopefully we can to do this, because I am telling you, the American people have been lied to long enough. It's not a matter of, it is a good thing that Israel and the UAE normalize relations here. I'm not going to even bullshit you about that. But the problem is the lies. We need to have conciliation and honesty with everybody at this point because, as you probably know, I worked intel. I'm telling you, man, I've investigated the alt-right. I know what the truth is on that. And the media distorts that. It's all bullshit. But you know what's not bullshit at this point? Is Antifa. They are a communist movement. Same with BLM.
That's true.
And
nobody
with that,
wants to out that.
With that, I'm going to have to wrap this up. Otherwise, I will not get to the rest of the stuff that I got to talk about tonight because I actually have some happy stuff to talk about.
And pretty soon I got to wake up and beat up on politicians.
That's your job.
That's true.
Kaiser, hey,
My
thanks for the
job
call,
is
sir.
to-
Appreciate it. Kaiser, are you there? Okay, that was Kaiser. He hung up.
My
Okay.
job is to tell the truth to America and protect this country.
Yes, a truth teller. And again, folks, where can we find you if we want to read you? Jeff DUNETZ.
Lidblog.com.
Lidblog.com. Tons of articles every doggone day. Well, maybe except for Saturday and Sunday, but
Actually, no, Sunday yes, Saturday no. I work 6 days a week. The Jewish Sabbath I take off.
okay, cool. You are a writing machine. You are a monster. Jeff Dunetz, thank you ever so kindly. We will have to have you back. I wanted to.
Anytime. I enjoy talking to you, whether on the air or off.
I always enjoy talking to you. You'll always be on the show at least once a month because there's so much good stuff to talk about. So thank you again, sir. And
Thank you.
If I haven't said it recently, I want to say it now in front of everybody. Jeff is on the East Coast. Jeff lives in the state of New York. It's 12:12 right now. So imagine putting aside CP time to talk with some big, fat, bearded, elderly, obese dude in a Trump hat on the West
As opposed
Coast.
to a big, fat, bald dude in a Trump yarmulke.
And one of the promos for the show today, I have that picture of you wearing that yarmulke in black and white. I have that picture, and I used it.
That was
today.
in Time magazine, believe it or not.
I do believe you. I do believe you. Alrighty, sir. Thank you ever so
Anyway,
kindly.
You be well, my friend.
We'll have you
Have
back.
a good rest of the show.
And
Thank you.
get some sleep, sir. Thank you.
I will try. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Jeff Dunetz. Thank you ever so kindly for being here, Jeff. I greatly appreciate it. And I threatened that I have some positive stuff to talk about. But before we do that, this is sort of a standard thing of the show now. Hello?
The bloviating Zeppelins, HeyJackass.com Chicago Death Toll Update. Courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
And, of course, we know Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot is no hypocrite whatsoever. I hope I get around to that story. So, HeyJackass.com. Go to HeyJackass.com, featuring and illustrating Chicago values. The death toll, let's see, final August totals, because it's September 1st. So, final August totals versus August of 2019. For August, shot and killed 69. Plus 37%. Shot and wounded 430, up 78% from 2019. Total shot 493, up 72% from 2019. Total homicides 66. In August, that's up 29%. Hey, Chicago's got something to be really happy about. Okay, so week in progress. That would be August 30th to September 5th, shot and killed 7. Shot and wounded 40. Total shot 47. Total homicide 7. Year to date. Oh, this is where the numbers go kaboom aloomaloomy. Shot and killed 476. Shot and wounded 2,337. Total shot 2,813. Total homicides, 519. Illustrating, once again, great Chicago values. Now, I'm going to transition over into some happy stories, and I've been having some trouble with my laptop, so let's see if this plays. This is, let's see, who put this out? This was James Woods. This is kind of a commercial kind of thing he called We Are Democrats.
What are we fighting for? For the workers, for the dreamers, and asylum seekers, for those with disabilities, for seniors, for safer schools, neighborhoods, and communities, for a secure retirement, for opportunity, for our country. We are the party of the people. We are Democrats.
Yeah. Everybody knows the Democrats are the party of the people. Power to the people. Right on, brother. Okay, that was Jeff Dunetz in the first hour. I have decided that I was going to... people were expecting me to cork off tonight on COVID-19. And initially I had planned to, but there are so many other things that are occurring right now. I think that to be... Oh, Dan. Welcome to Dan in Facebook chat. Good to see you there. And Jimmy Collins. I think we're going to have to come to the realization that in terms of John Durham and whatever it is that he is or isn't doing, because nobody really knows, I think we're going to have to come to grips with reality. And with regard to that, Lou Dobbs was talking to Tom Fitton. And Tom Fitton is not really a very happy camper, but he's coming to grips with things, and I think we are going to have to also.
Joining us tonight is Tom Fitton. He is the president of Judicial Watch. He has a new book. It's called A Republic Under Assault, The Left's Ongoing Attack on American Freedom. It's available for pre-order right now. We recommend it to you highly. Tom Fitton, good to see you. This is, first of all, explain to me how the former CIA director under investigation by Durham, whether he's a target or not, is at the CIA headquarters for that investigation.
Well, it sounds like old home week. Maybe they needed to review classified information. Of course, that could have been done in other locations. You know, my concern is it's been, 16 plus months since Durham was appointed.
Yeah.
And only now is he questioning Mr. Brennan. And, I think Mr. Brennan is probably calling it right. I hope he's wrong that he isn't a target. I think Comey believes he isn't a target. And they might think otherwise if there were serious investigations or a serious investigative approach evident. And I'm not seeing it. I don't see grand juries operating. I don't see a bunch of witnesses coming in. I don't see lawyers, complaining about their clients being brought in before Durham. You saw during the Mueller investigation, that's what a serious criminal investigation it looks like. Even though it was corrupted, when the government's bringing pressure on witnesses and subjects, and that is not evident here. And I don't think it's because Durham's being careful. I think because he's not doing the work.
You think Durham is not doing the work. So what you're really saying...
Okay, stop right there. I got to go to other stuff. That is an incredible comment from Tom Fitton regarding what has happened for the prior 5 years, here in the United States of America. And if you've gotten to the point, Tom Fitton is, I don't remember, in one of the chat. Oh, there it was. In Dan Maynard wrote in Facebook chat. Tom Fitton is going to go down in history as one of the unsung heroes that helped to save the United States. Tom Fitton has sued everybody and their brother within an inch of their life through any number of FOIA requests to get to the bottom of information that should have been plain and clear for everyone to see for quite some time, but he had to sue the United States and any number of departments to get the information. And I'm afraid, as apparently is Tom Fitton, that if we're setting all of our eggs in the Durham basket, we're going to be very crassly disappointed. I was listening to Jeremy Hansen. I try to listen to him as many times during the week as I can. Unleash Jeremy Hansen. Tonight he was talking about getting things going ourselves. And I have not been a big fan or actually linked in very much to what's happening with Q. And I know any number of people that may listen to me or maybe don't, or any number of people that I relate back and forth to on social media. I'm not a big Q guy. I really don't know what the hell Q is, and my finger is not on the pulse of whatever Q might be. But we also, like Tom Fitton indicated, we can't count on a Durham investigation. As I think Jeremy pointed out earlier today meaning Tuesday because it's Wednesday now on the East Coast, don't put your eggs in the Q basket. Don't expect Durham or Q or anybody else to pull our ass out of the fire. I don't believe it's going to happen. If you're thinking that you can sit back and let someone else do the work, Tom Fitton do the work, and that you can watch and listen in some sort of an uninvolved manner, you're thinking improperly, folks. In a way, I am Q. You are Q. He, she, and it are Q. We are Q. They are Q. Because the only people that are going to get things done are you and me. But the other thing that I wanted to make sure that I emphasize tonight is, and I'll like I say, I'll go into some COVID-19 stuff. But I'm going to save, I believe, the bulk of that for Thursday night. We have an obligation to save this country. If we are a patriot, if we are conservative, leftists want to destroy and crush. Anymore, that's all they do. They destroy and they crush. And they are of little, if any, value. None. Zip. Zero. The null set. They have proven that they are of zero value. So it's up to us to, it's our country. It's up to us to save it. If you, as an individual listening to me now, live or in podcast, in the chat room, SHR chat room, Facebook chat room, if you can go out and influence someone, please do it. Make sure you vote. Don't get depressed because I'm about to give you an assload of happy stories. If you let this media bullshit seep into your brainulus because it's 2020 with all the rest of the GERP that's going on, don't do it. Don't let that happen. One of the reasons that I'm here is to point out that I believe a lot of good things are going to happen on November 4th. We will vote on November 3rd. The deal about November 3rd is don't listen to the media. They're going to tell you one of two things. Either Trump is so far ahead, don't vote. Your vote is immaterial. Or they're going to tell you Trump is so far behind, your vote won't matter. Bullshit. Get out and vote. Don't listen to the media. They are attempting to control your life, and I'm telling you, with all of the incredible forces arrayed against OMB, Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, he will still come through and he will persevere. And perhaps, boy, my laptop is slow. Oh my goodness, that's what happens when I open about 50 tabs now because of all the stories that I was going to go into. Well, let's just start. It's time for this.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
The first one is this. This is from a site that is leftist in nature. It's from Axios. And it's saying this: how Trump could pull off another upset. Leftists are finally paying attention. If I had it to play, I played it last Thursday night, where Don Lemon and Cuomo are talking to each other. Chris Cuomo are talking. They're saying, hey, rioters, tamp it down. It's finally starting to affect the polling. And it is. The violence is finally starting to affect the polling. That's the only reason that they're trying to tamp down the violence, because up until then, they perceived that the violence was working in their favor. They were in favor of violence, ripping this nation apart. Now they're not, because it's not working to their benefit now. Axios. It feels like August of 2016 all over again. Polls show Donald Trump losing big. Pundits proclaim he can't win. Well, bullshit alert when I tell you about some of the new polls. This was written late August. Pundits proclaim he can't win. Reporters sneer at Trump voters on Twitter and cable. Why it matters. There are several signs that should give the Trump is toast self-assured pause. He's doing better in some swing state polls than he was at this point in 2016. And his floor of support holds strong, regardless of what he says or does. And for those, I've lost tons of friends, including a family member. And to all of you who have left, and you don't want to talk to me anymore, fuck you, kiss my ass, I'm for this country, not you. So I am at this point, I am voting for Trump, period, end of statement. I don't care what he says or does until then, period. If you don't like that, well, that's your view on the left side. So I guess I can't have that either, can I? Not only is the stock market on fire, but a lot of blue-collar workers in building, plumbing, and other manual crafts are doing pretty well, too, despite Wuhan 19. Trump's big bet is that there are a lot of working-class voters, especially in rural areas, who did not vote in 2016, but they're going to this time. His other bet is that months of dumping on Joe Biden, often with lies or wild hyperbole, again, bullshit, will do what he did to Hillary Clinton, make the Democrat nominee seem slightly more unpalatable than himself. That's from Axios. Oh, but wait. Oh, come on, laptop. Don't be doing this to me. I also saw this. This came out today. Leo Terrell. If you guys ever watch Fox, if you ever watched, and you can probably still find them on, you can probably find them on YouTube. Leo Terrell and Sean Hannity, and also Tucker Carlson, used to have screaming matches at each other because Terrell was a massive leftist. Even Leo Terrell these days has gone and said, this is so far over the top, I can no longer support these people anymore, period, end of statement. Well, I've got a video that you've got to hear from Leo Terrell that just came out today, and I will be playing it right after this. And again, if you have to hit the electric winkle chamber, go ahead. Thanks for being here for the full 2 hours. Thanks for listening live. Thanks for listening in the SHR Media chat room. Thanks for listening and watching in the Facebook chat room. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff DUNETZ. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff DUNETZ.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right, we're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website, www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On ADL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is it. It's time for the final 25 minutes of the Bloviating Zeppelins Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, 2 miles east of the Bill Mill, the Circle of Doom, the horrific edifice at 10th and L Street downtown, where last week, what was it, Tuesday night? Yeah, Tuesday night, we had some great riots here in Sacramento. They weren't protests, they were riots. And we discovered that the rioters, not the protesters, went to the sheriff's department that was at 711 G Street, broke out every window on the bottom, went over to the district attorney's office a block and a half away and did the very same thing there. Sacramento, you gotta love it. I can't wait to get the fuck out of Dodge. There are some very convoluted things that are keeping me here. In any event, Leo Terrell said, after I introduced who he was, an enemy of Tucker Carlson, an enemy of, of Sean Hannity. Now he's a friend. He's a very good friend of these guys.
Truly unbelievable. Yesterday, MSDNC guest host Tiffany Cross said that the RNC's African-American speakers look like a, quote, modern-day minstrel show. Huh? Ooh. Okay, meanwhile, Baltimore GOP House candidate Kimberly Klacik said that the president's message is resonating with African-American voters, released this ad on Twitter calling out the Democratic Party for failing the African-American community in Baltimore. Take a look.
The Democrat Party have betrayed the black people of Baltimore. If the politicians walked the streets like I do, they would see exactly how their policies and corruption affects us.
Now, the polls support her claim, as a new survey released by The Hill Friday showed an increase in support from African-American voters at 9 points.
I'm going to have to play that ad. If you haven't heard that ad, it skewers the crap out of Democrats. Anyway, Leo Terrell is going to be saying very shortly, Trump is going to get the highest number of blacks in Republican history.
The RNC, and while Republicans and the president are working to make inroads with all American voters, Democrats, Michelle Obama, seem focused on, well, some politics of division, but we'll let you decide. You can listen.
When I'm just a black woman, I notice that white people don't even see me. They're not even looking at me. So I'm standing there with 2 little black.
Join the club, comma, but the other aspect is, who cares?
Girls, another black female adult, they're in soccer uniforms, and a white woman cuts right in front of us to order. Like she didn't even see us. I can tell you.
Okay, so you're trying to tell me that being rude is racist. How many times has that happened to somebody who is black who's done that to me? Did I immediately brand them a racist? No. Rude. Hello. See, that's the aspect of leftists. If you're not a victim, you're nothing. Bigger victims, you're a bigger person. Hello, Jussie Smollett and the dude that can't win in NASCAR.
A number of stories like that when I've been completely incognito during the 8 years in the White House, walking the dogs on the canal. People will come up and pet my dogs, but will not look me in the eye. They don't know it's me. And it's you know, what white folks don't understand, it's like, that is so telling of how white America views people who are not like them.
Here with more reaction, Baltimore Republican congressional candidate Kimberly Klacik and civil rights attorney Leo Terrell. Kimberly, your ad blew me away.
Yeah, God, it was great.
Is it true there are 13 public high schools in Baltimore that don't have one single child proficient in math?
That is absolutely true. Unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with in Baltimore. I talked about it the other day on Maria's show Sunday morning. Now the message that President Trump is giving to Black Americans, it's resonating for real. We have a team out 5 days a week talking to voters, and they are telling us how they're going to vote differently this time around, not just for me, but for President Trump. They understand that opportunity zones, career opportunities, actually doing something as far as criminal justice reform and actually investing in HBCUs, it means a lot to the Black community. So I think a lot of people are excited.
Well, I'd love to see you win that race. That would be great. Leo Terrell, Zogby, and there are now many polls. These are not outliers any longer. 2.5 times the support among African Americans for Donald Trump than just 2016 alone. I want your take on that and your take on the podcast of Michelle Obama.
Well, first of all, I brought over 300,000 Black Democrats to vote for Trump. I'm bringing more and more and more. So that's happening. Trump is going to get the highest number of Black votes ever in modern day history for a Republican. Black voters are voting for Trump. But let me talk about Queen Michelle Obama. The Queen has made the most.
Be nice, Leo.
Okay. I'll be First Lady Michelle Obama.
He's fired up.
The comment was insulting. It was racist. She has now made it impossible for her ever to run for office again, because that statement would haunt her. But let's be clear. Let's deal with the facts. Iowa, 97% white, gave Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama a victory in caucus and back-to-back election. She made a moral decision that she knows what's in the hearts and minds of every American, and that is the part that was insulting. That comment that she made on that podcast, if she made that in a court of law, she would be convicted of racism. And so I think the comments were offensive and insulting to every American. For her to think she knows what's in the hearts of every white American, and for her to think she knows what's in the minds of every Black American. It's insulting.
For the first time in my adult life, I am proud of my country, she said.
From the very beginning,
famously,
in 2008,
when her husband was running, Kimberly.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's going on and what Michelle Obama's life experiences have been, but I can tell her I won my primary on June 2nd with 70% of the vote, and 80% of my voters were from white America. They, like Terrell said, you have to have white America to vote you in to be the president of the United States. The Black population only makes up 13%. So you need white America and everyone else to vote. And he won 2 terms.
Okay, let me stop right there. This is one of the reasons that I have some of the smartest people in chat. Leslie Holker in SHR Chat said, Democrats have been promising to fix Black communities and schools for decades, and then they never hear from them again until the next election. The majority of them in cities have been run by Democrats for decades. Democrats worked hard to keep them enslaved. They created the KKK to torture and murder Black Americans. They refused to pass the Civil Rights Act. And then when they did, LBJ took from the Social Security Fund to increase welfare in hopes of enslaving them another way, removing the fathers from the home. That's exactly it. Ask Larry Elder or any other individual who is a clear-thinking individual. Doesn't matter the shade of them. Larry Elder said basically, you want to succeed in life, just do 3 things. Number 1, graduate from high school. Number 2, never have a child until after the age of 20. Number 3, when you have a child, make sure you're married, and that guarantees success in life. That's just obvious.
So I don't know what her experience has been, but it hasn't been my experience.
Last word, Leo.
Sean, the bottom line is this. The Democrats are worried that Black voters are voting for Trump, for Kimberly. They're shocked that I'm voting for Trump. And what's happening is this. They have to keep playing the race card to make sure there's racial division because they want to keep Blacks on the Democratic plantation. It won't work.
That's exactly it. Well, wait, there's more. From Rasmussen, Trump approval rating at 36% among Black voters. Let me say that again. That's from a late August poll. Trump approval rating at 36% among Black voters. That's essentially unprecedented in the history of blacks voting for Republicans. But wait, there's more. Then there was this that also came out, if my laptop will cooperate with me. Trump, well, we already saw this. And this is one of the major reasons that the Democrats are in a tizzy. They don't know whether to shit Twinkies or go blind. They didn't get a Biden bounce from their week of the DNC. However, Trump gets a bounce from a Republican convention as new poll shows him narrowing Biden's lead by 4 points. Now, these aren't the polls that we saw in 2016. In 2016, we saw Trump doesn't have a damn chance. These are the same polls making the same numbers, polling the same individuals. Now, I have always said I never give pollsters an idea of what I'm thinking. But this is unusual in terms of the first poll to be completed since the Republican National Convention ended on last Thursday night, shows Trump gained on rival Joe Biden, whittling down the Democrats' lead in the race by 4 percentage points. Okay, so what you have to do is you do what I had to do in criminal law. When you're working a case or you're on a call, you look at the totality of the circumstances. You don't look at one particular aspect, one particular fact, one particular incident. Your job is to look at the entire sphere of the circumstances, and then that will give you a better and clearer indication of where the case is going to be taking you. That's the same thing for the polls here, plus all the other people that are saying these things, people that have never historically said these things about a Republican presidential candidate before. I have to give great credit to Brandon Strzok. I'm going to have him back on the show. I've had him on the show 5 times. He's big potatoes now. I hope I can get him back on the show because, my God, he was in Sacramento. Doggone it, Brandon. He was in Sacramento and also in San Francisco, and he started the walk away movement. I would tell him to his face today, Brandon Strzok is one of the strongest little dudes that I have ever seen and had a great concept and took it to fruition. Hashtag walk away. Hashtag Blexit. Any number of hashtags. People have had it. And there's another reason that people have had it. This is from Lidblog, from my good friend, Jeffrey DUNETZ, that I just spoke to last hour. Position on violent crime is driving Trump's approval up. Liberal pollster says Trump's approval at a record 52%. Stop. This is a 52 percentile higher than when Obama was at this point in his first term. But the American media maggots will not tell you that. And I will. And that's why I'm here. That's why these are happy stories. A recent poll from the Pew Research Center indicates violent crime is a significant issue among registered voters. Heading into the 2020 presidential election, a Zogby poll reports record approval for the president, partially driven by the increase in violent crime and riots, particularly in Democrat-run cities. Don't just wake up tomorrow and think that all is lost. No, all is not lost. Don't fret. Do what BZ suggests. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're an adult. And that's why I present as many things as possible on this show, things that you're not going to hear otherwise in the left atmosphere and the American media maggots. The closer it gets, the more that everybody in the American media maggot side is going to tell you who to vote for. Independents are leaning more towards Trump than they are for Biden. Now, I always thought that was a strange thing. If I'm a registered independent, but do you really think in 4 years, if you have half a brain, that there's any... God, maybe you can tell me. Maybe you can tell me. Write it in chat. Is there anybody that you know of, anybody at all, who isn't a stegosaurus, as I call them, who hasn't already decided one way or the other that they either like Trump or they hate Trump? Because when people say, it's going to be the independents that... bullshit. There are people that are registered independents, such as me. How can you live in the United States of America and not know who President Trump is and wait until the moment you get into your polling place, or depending on how it goes, whether you go in the round oval on your ballot, and at the last second, you go, well, yeah, I don't know who I'm going to vote for. Maybe Joe, maybe Donald. I don't. Are you kidding me? I shouldn't doubt it. I shouldn't doubt that there are... This is what got me killed on Facebook for a month. I'm sure there are stupid fucking Americans that are out there. I don't know who I'm going to vote. I find that so hard to believe. Alaskan in chat says, this is interesting. All of our Democrats are running as independents up here. Huh, imagine that. Tainted. They don't want to be tainted. They don't want to be tainted with all the violence and the stupidity and the vacuosity of Joe Biden. Here's another happy story, because it's happy. Did you happen to hear this? My guess would be, no, you didn't. This came out today. Today. This is breaking news. This is a brand new story. Court blocks release of Trump tax returns amid latest appeal. But it doesn't fit the American media maggot narrative, so you haven't heard about it. I'm telling you, folks, don't get depressed. Don't get wound up. Okay, let me do the wind up for you. All the hard money that you pay for this show goes right here. Let me do the winding up. Let me blow my top. Let me go 210 over 190. And then you can sit here with your favorite adult beverage and listen to me talk about happy stories, because this shit isn't over. Until the fat lady sings. Or until the fat BZ tells you what's happening November 4th. By the way, November 3rd, that night, SHR Media from the East Coast and the West Coast, we will be covering the election. We're going to be covering the waterfront, just like we've done in 2000. God, we did this in 2016. And we did this in, gosh. Now, that's the only, those are the only ones that I've been involved in. But the SHR guys have been involved in that kind of stuff. Don't get upset. This is not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. I got about 6 more minutes before the end of the show. Here's why I hold out positivism. Because you have to ask yourself a logical question. And that question is, do you possibly think that leftists and Democrats have it within themselves to magically stop doing what they're doing right now? The answer is no. And do you think that all these violent anarchists, leftists, are going to listen to a thing that Don Lemon or Chris Cuomo happen to say to them? No. They're not listening to their mayors. They're not listening to their governors. They're not listening to anyone. At this point, they just want shit to burn. So the Democrats at this point may attempt to moderate their tone just a bit. But even Biden did not come out and say, damn those people for killing him. And a guy got shot because he was a Trump supporter. Period. End of statement. Democrats don't have the ability to stop pushing. Likewise, leftists don't have the ability to stop pushing. Now let me get back to the Federal Appeals Court today. Blocked a New York prosecutor from obtaining Donald Trump's tax returns while the president's lawyers continue a fight to subpoena seeking records. The 3-judge panel ruled after hearing brief arguments from both sides. That's a win for Trump. I got time for one more story. Now, this is from my neck of the woods. This is from the dailybreeze.com. You may not be aware of it, or perhaps you are. In California, always spell it with a K. California has Democrats, leftists have not just a majority, not just a big majority, but what is termed a super majority in the Capitol building 2 miles that way at 10th and L Street. A super majority. But then this article came out, and it came out 2 days ago. The headline is, one-party rule in California is backfiring. According to U.S. Census Bureau projections, California will lose at least one seat in the U.S. House of Representatives after the 2020 census. Why do you think there was a massive push by the Democrats to get the census out and keep, and to put as many illegal immigrants into the census as humanly possible? Because if this affects California, it's going to affect the rest of the leftist states. According to U.S. Census Bureau projections, California is going to lose at least one seat in the U.S. House of Representatives after the 2020 census. This is because the total number of representatives is fixed at 435. Stop. Just hearing that amount of information, what do you think any leftist or Democrat that's reading that is thinking? Then we need to expand the House of Representatives. Guaranteed. That's what they're thinking right now. This is because the total number of representatives is fixed at 435 and allocated to population. This zero-sum game means that states with decreasing or static population will lose and states with growing population will win. Since statehood in 1850, California has consistently gained representation in Congress because it was the land of boundless opportunity and promise. Now, not so much. So why are Californians leaving the formerly golden state for states like Texas, which is projected to pick up 3 House seats? The reasons include cost of living, crime, homelessness, crumbling infrastructure, burdensome regulations, high taxes, gross mismanagement of the pandemic response, failure to manage our forests leading to catastrophic fires, and green policies that caused a shortage of electricity and rolling blackouts. And how do I know that? Because kids, I see it every day. I live here.
Monsieur has unlocked!
Folks, I really appreciate you being here tonight. Each and every night. It's late at night. Thanks for listening. And I should say it more. The time that you spend at night with me as a late night talk show conservative, a conservatarian, little L libertarian. I appreciate the time you take, whether you're listening in live or interacting in the SHR Media chat or the Facebook chat. I'm serious when I tell you, I started this off for me, and it's always fun. I get to bloviate. But I really appreciate how the audience has gone boom. So thanks to you, each and everybody here. And by the way, I also want to thank, before I go, my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Thursday night, Western author Terrence McCauley. He's got some great books. We're going to be talking to him Thursday night. God bless. Take care. Be safe. Everybody.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.